14,900 properties on evacuation alert. That's roughly 2,200 people on order and 25,000 people on alert. We've seen a significant shift in those numbers this morning with news from Summerland that over 3,000 properties have moved from order to alert, and the majority of Summerland being able to return home today. This is news that so many people have been waiting for, and I want to thank all of the local officials who are in the process of coordinating a staged recovery in their communities. Different areas and different neighborhoods will be allowed to return at different times. Once your local government or First Nation confirms that you can return home, it's important to do so safely. Please use designated re-entry routes established by your local authority. And when you get to your property, walk around the perimeter. Look for potential hazards, including downed or damaged wiring, debris, structural damage, or the smell of gas. If you see something that could be dangerous, immediately contact your local authority. Returning home after an evacuation can be a difficult experience. Take your time, check in with loved ones and neighbors, and know that it's okay to ask for help. In BC, mental health support is available by calling the BC Mental Health Support Line at 310-6789. The Kids Help Phone can be reached at 1-800-668-6868 or by visiting kidshelpphone.ca. For those people who are still waiting to go home, the question we hear most often, when can I go home? And the answer will look different for every community, and it's determined by your local authority or First Nation when it's going to be safe. It will depend on risk and damage assessments and the work that needs to be done before people can safely return. That work can include restoring power, fixing damaged roads, assessing water systems, mitigating hazards in the community, and assessing any other potential public safety hazards. I know that the uncertainty is difficult for people waiting to go home. The province is supporting local governments and First Nations as they work tirelessly to make sure that when people return, they can do so safely. Please continue to monitor for updates from your local government or First Nation. They know their communities best and will let people know as soon as it's safe to return. Emergency Support Services is available to support people who do not have insurance or who need help meeting their basic needs, such as food, clothing, and accommodation. If you have homeowners or tenants insurance, please reach out to your provider if you've not done so already. This has been a challenging wildfire season, and many communities have been deeply impacted. But what has not been lost is our sense of community. People, organizations, and businesses have been going above and beyond to collect supplies and raise money for people impacted by wildfires. Volunteers have dropped everything to bring comfort to those in need, and communities have stepped up in a big way to welcome and support evacuees. This is the story in the Okanagan and many other regions of the province. This is the story of British Columbia. For now, financial donations through trusted organizations are the best way to help. I wish that I could tell you that the wildfire season is over, but it isn't. Conditions across much of the province remain incredibly dry, and the risk of new fires starting is very real. I want to ask everyone in British Columbia to continue doing your part. Stay alert to the conditions, have a grab-and-go bag ready, and listen to the directions of your local government or First Nation. Pre-register for emergency support services at ess.gov.bc.ca and download the BC Services Card app. Information on evacuation orders and alerts is available 24/7 through emergencyinfobc.ca. Before I hand it over, I want to express my gratitude to the people who have supported those who have evacuated. From emergency support services responders working directly with evacuees, to staff at First Nations, local governments, and in my ministry, to first responders, wildfire crews, local leaders, people, and businesses, you have shown what it means to be there for one another. In the most difficult moments, you have lifted people up, and I know that we'll continue to do this work together. Thank you, and I'll now turn it over to Minister Parmar.
Thank you very much, Minister Greene. Good morning, everyone. My name is Ravi Parmar, and I have the honour to serve as British Columbia's Minister of Forests and the Minister responsible for the BC Wildfire Service. I just want to begin acknowledging, as Minister Greene graciously did, acknowledging that this has been a challenging couple of weeks for British Columbians. I think of those in the Caribou over the last number of weeks, those that are continuing to face challenges in the Fraser Canyon, and of course, where eyes not only here in British Columbia, but throughout Canada and around the world have been on Summerland, British Columbia and the surrounding region. On behalf of all British Columbians, my hearts go out to all those that have been impacted by fires. I want to once again, as the Minister responsible for the BC Wildfire Service, commend and thank the incredible wildland firefighters on the front line, all those that have been part of this emergency response on the ground, up in the air, supporting communities in their time of need. As we've seen over the last few days, and I expect we'll continue to see over the next week, there are many British Columbians returning home, but I know that there are many British Columbians that are returning homes that are no longer standing. And my heart certainly goes out to them in their time of need, and I want them to know, as Minister Greene did, that we will be there to support them in their time of need. We will be there to support communities that have been impacted by this wildfire season. As of this morning, there are 126 active fires in British Columbia, 104 new starts over the last 7 days, with 85 declared out in the same period. We've had 10 new starts in the past 24 hours. And as I've noted previously, there are 4 wildfires of note in British Columbia. That includes the Bald Range Fire near Summerland, British Columbia, Pear Lake, as along with the Ainslie and Brunswick Creek wildfires and that complex along the Fraser Canyon. As of this time in the season, lightning is responsible for 83% of the current wildfires in British Columbia. And I also want to once again recognize, given the challenges we faced over the last couple of weeks with some very, very difficult fires, I am so grateful to the BC Wildland firefighters on the ground, in particular our initial attack crews. 90% of the fires over the past week have been maintained within 4 hectares, which again speaks to the heart, the hustle, the determination and resilience of the BC Wildfire Service, alongside all those that are fighting on the front line with us, all of our partners, forestry contractors, emergency professionals, as well as the over 800 wildland firefighters, initial incident management teams that have joined us from all over the world and all throughout Canada to stand with us in our time of need. My colleague Cliff Chapman is on the line and will be available to answer any operational questions pertaining to any of the fires that you may have questions on. But as Cliff touched on last week in our update, we have dealt with some very explosive fire behavior when you look at the Bald Range Fire in particular, as well as the challenges we're facing in the Fraser Canyon and the Caribou as well. As Minister Greene said, I would be the happiest guy in the world to stand up here and say that the fire season is over, but it is not. Fire seasons, as we know from past years, are longer and more intense. And so I want to thank British Columbians for the work that they've done to date, but remind them again, now is the time for all of us as British Columbians to dig deep. Now is the time for us to be fire smart, to stay resilient, and to be informed. I want to touch on the importance of being informed. As many of you will have seen, we are continuing to deal with the era of misinformation. It is so incredibly important for all British Columbians to get information from important news sources while also downloading the BC Wildfire app as well. We have seen AI bots, we have seen more misinformation in this fire season and in past fire seasons. Shame on those that are trying to misinform British Columbians in this very difficult period. But now, British Columbians, my ask of you is to download the BC Wildfire app and make sure you're getting your information from important sources. We have about 4 weeks of the summer still ahead of us, and we are in it for the long haul unless the weather picture changes. The coming week, the province will continue to see hotter temperatures and drier conditions, except for the far northwest part of the province. Again, the Bald Range fire was a prime example of the intensity of the fires that we're seeing here in British Columbia. Look forward to the opportunity to be able to head up to the Okanagan in the next week to be able to engage directly with British Columbians, to be able to engage with mayors, councillors, and chiefs to talk about the challenges of this fire season, but also the work that we're doing as an organization to prepare for the upcoming fire season as well. The last message that I'll leave to you before I turn it over to Dr. Henry is a reminder again for British Columbians. If you are in a position where you have been able to return to your home, if your area was under evacuation order and is now under evacuation alert, my ask of you is to be on alert. Have a go bag ready. And for any British Columbian that hasn't been impacted by fires this season, we still have many weeks to go. Be prepared, stay informed, and be resilient. Now it's my honor to turn it over to BC's Provincial Health Officer, Dr. Bonnie Henry.
Thank you very much, Minister, and good morning. I'm Dr. Bonnie Henry. I serve as the Provincial Health Officer here in British Columbia, and I want to acknowledge again that we're here on the traditional territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh peoples. And it's days like this that remind us of the importance of the stewardship of the lands and waters that we have the privilege, and we have much to learn. I'm here today to talk a bit about something that's affecting us all across the province, and that's wildfire smoke, and the measures that we can take to protect ourselves as the smoke continues in many communities across BC, especially the interior. We know today is a heavy smoke day, and here in the Lower Mainland. Sadly, along with wildfires, smoke has become all too common in our summers, and effects can be felt even at a distance from the fires. Like many issues in health, wildfire smoke doesn't affect everybody equally. We know that people who have certain conditions, particularly people who have respiratory conditions like asthma or chronic obstructive pulmonary disease that affect the lungs, these are people who are most affected, as well as people who are pregnant. We know infants and children can be more affected. They may have smaller lungs, but they breathe more air per body weight than older people. We also know that older adults are more susceptible to the effects of wildfire smoke, as well as people with heart disease and diabetes, chronic diseases. For most of us, the smoky air causes throat irritation, headaches, cough, runny nose, irritated eyes, short-term effects that resolve as the air cleans. And we are lucky in BC that our air is mostly clean air and that we have low pollution compared to many other parts of the world. But the effects of wildfire smoke do go away after the air clears. But as periods of smoke get more common and longer during our summers, we do have concerns about long-term effects. And many of these are unknown. It's still unknown how these periodic exposures can affect our health in the future. That's why it's so important that the measures we take now to protect those, particularly those who are at higher risk. So what can we do? We know the main culprit for acute effects of wildfire smoke are these very small particles in the air that we call PM 2.5, and that's particulate matter. 2.5 is the size of the micrograms. And so because they're very small, they can be inhaled deep into the lungs, and they cause irritation. That's what causes that itchiness in your eyes, the scratchiness in your throat, and it can cause you to cough and to have irritation in the lungs. And sometimes it can cause inflammation that affects not just the lungs, but also other parts of the body, and as well as the irritation. Along with the PM 2.5, which is what causes most of the effects, we also know that wildfire smoke emits gases that are very similar to pollution. So volatile organic chemicals, VOCs, but also nitrous oxide, sulfur dioxide, and ozone, which can in of themselves be irritating. So what do we do? Number one is to reduce your exposures. Know the air quality in your area. And we do have, as Minister Parmar was talking about, we have a number of credible resources that you can use, including bcairquality.ca, And that tells us about air quality advisories in your area, and it uses simple measures to help you understand, like yellow being moderate, orange, or red when it's at high risk. Also, and your local health authority has information on the air quality in your area and your community. But if you don't have an air quality meter close to you, trust your senses. If you see or smell smoke, your air quality is being affected. PM 2.5 is usually about moderate on our air quality scale range when you can first smell smoke. So that's a marker that you can use. If you are somebody who's more at risk, then you need to think about things like avoiding outdoor activity. Find a space with clean air. Keep your doors and windows closed. If you have air conditioning, heat pumps in your home, make sure you check your filters, add HEPA filters, or you can do it yourself, portable filters. And there's some great information on the BC CDC website. And just look up air quality, wildfire smoke, and there's lots of good information how you can do that. If you can't keep clean air in your entire house, then create a space in one area of the house where you can spend time to get that clean air, like a bedroom or a place where you can all gather. Also, know where the clean air spaces are in your community. And these are the places like malls and community centers, libraries, and we know that many of the First Nations and communities around the province right now have set up particular clean air spaces for those who don't have the ability to do that at home. If you are somebody who has heart disease or asthma and you know that this air quality can affect you, make sure you have a supply of your rescue medications with you. You may need them before you realize it. If you are somebody who must go outside or somebody that's working outside, and I'm thinking, of course, the thousands of people who have been working in these conditions across the province, a respirator, which is a type of mask, can be of benefit. So what we're talking about are masks, the ones that are labeled N95, KN95, or KF94. All of these are very effective at filtering out the PM 2.5. But there are some caveats. The air must go through the material of the mask. That means that you need to have it well fitted to your face. So it's a good idea to figure out which ones fit you best. And they can be very affected if you need to be outside or if you're doing things like cleaning up in your house after you've returned from an evacuation where there's ash and soot and dust. That's another time when wearing a respirator can be of benefit. And I just want to note that these respirators, N95s, are available right now thanks to a partnership between the federal government and the Canadian Red Cross. And you can look at redcross.ca/2026 BC wildfires to find locations where you can pick up a free N95. They are also available, as we know, in many hardware stores and pharmacies. Sadly, we've all become quite used to knowing how to use them. So for people at higher risk, it's better, though, to avoid going out, to avoid being exposed, than to rely on a mask. And we know that the respirators make that work of breathing more difficult, and that can be a challenge for some people. They're also uncomfortable, especially when it's hot out. So they don't work if they're sweaty or dirty or wet. Having said that, if they're clean and dry, you can reuse them if you need to go out multiple times. And they don't protect against gases. So once again, it's really important to minimize your exposures to wildfire smoke, particularly if you're somebody who's more at risk. And we talk about listening to your body. If you feel unwell, even if you're wearing a mask, decrease your activity or go inside where there's clean air. And another caveat, it is never safe to wear a mask while you're sleeping, and particularly for children. Also want to make the point here in the summer that overheating is more dangerous for most people at risk than just the wildfire air. So cooler, cleaner indoor air is your best protection. For many of us, though, going outside, if we're not somebody who's at risk, going outside to exercise, to play, is good, and what we want to do in the summer. And for most people not at risk, think about things when there's wildfire smoke, about modifying your activities. Strenuous exercise, when you breathe heavily, you can increase the amount of wildfire smoke and PM 2.5 that you inhale by as much as 10 times. So think about things like exercising indoors, decreasing your time, decreasing the intensity of your activity. And I know this may be a challenge for those who are training for their fall marathons, but these are temporary things, and you can go back to outdoor training. But also drink lots of water and listen to your body. Even if you're feeling well, know that if you're pushing yourself, the wildfire smoke does make a difference and can affect you. And remember that some people are affected more than others, so know who those people are in your group and look out for each other. If you experience or notice somebody else experiencing more severe symptoms like shortness of breath, difficulty breathing, severe coughing, dizziness, confusion, or chest pain, or they're obviously in distress, if you can, move them to a cool, clean air place and seek medical attention. And if you're concerned, call 911. Along with wildfires and heat, wildfire smoke now has become part of our summer here in BC. But there are things that we can do. And I want to put out a shout right now to the thousands of responders who continue to work and do their heroic work in the face of heat and fires, including our health responders. And we know that this is challenging work and it's hot and heavy work, and we appreciate it every day. There are things we can all do to be prepared, to manage the risks, and still enjoy our summers. So know your risks. Know the risk of the people around you, your family, your friends. Know what to do to help keep everybody safe and healthy as we make it through another wildfire season. Thank you, and I'll now turn it back to Minister Greene.
Thank you so much, Dr. Henry, for the information and guidance. We can take questions now. We do also have technical experts on the line, including Cliff Chapman, Director of Wildfire Operations with the BC Wildfire Service, Kevin Dunbar, Executive Director of Emergency Response and Recovery Operations with the Ministry of Emergency Management and Climate Readiness, Connie Chapman, Executive Director from the Water Management Branch in the Ministry of Water, Land and Resource Stewardship, and Jeremy Oaten, Director of Emergency Management, Ministry of Agriculture and Food.
To the media on the line, please press *1 to enter the queue. You'll have one question and one follow-up. We will start with media in person. If you can state your name and your outlet, you'll have one question and one follow-up.
Yeah, John Hernandez with CBC News here. I guess you mentioned off the top 150 homes burned or structures burned in the fire near Summerland. I guess the big question on everyone's minds, what supports will there be for people that have lost their homes, maybe face challenges when it comes to recovering anything through insurance or might not even have insurance?
It's just an incredibly difficult time. When you lose your home, there's your memories are there. You've lost photographs, your possessions. We are continuing to work with local governments, including the regional district, as well as Summerland, as well as OKIB and everyone who's affected by the Big Bar Complex fire. We are here to support communities in the recovery. We take the lead from our local government partners in recognizing any particular needs in the community, and we'll work with them on what recovery looks like as we move forward. Every community is different, and we're here to support every community.
And then just to follow up, regarding the Okanagan in particular, it's been dealing with prolonged drought for years now. What's the long-term plan? We just saw how explosive these fires took off just over the last number of weeks. How do you protect communities in the future here? Does that involve fire smart funding, fire breaks in communities? What is the long-term vision here?
Climate change continues to change our landscape. It is drier and hotter, longer. Fires, as we have seen with the Bald Range fire, can be explosive. We need to make sure that we are doing everything we can to support communities in the face of this changing climate. For example, communities can implement a development permit area requiring the use of non-combustible materials for the construction of new homes. But there's also a number of activities that we can do in our wildland urban interfaces, and I'll turn that over to Minister Parmar for some comment.
Yeah, thanks, John. It was a great question. I think it's important to acknowledge that many communities in the Okanagan are leaders in Canada when it comes to wildfire suppression and mitigation. I've had a number of conversations with the chief of the West Kelowna Fire Department, the mayor. I'm going to be most likely in Kelowna and the region next week, having the conversation about the challenges that this wildfire season has posed to that region, but also having the important conversation around what steps can we take post this wildfire season and the steps that we're already taking to mitigate the impact of wildfires. As was noted in my remarks, and certainly Cliff's touched on this, these fires, when there's the fuel on the ground, as well as the explosive drought conditions, make it very challenging. And that's certainly what we're seeing with our wildfires of note. But there is a lot of good work happening on the ground through Fire Smart funding, but also through Crown Land wildfire risk reduction. I've asked my ministry to take a lot of the different pots of money that we have and develop an all of society's approach. And I'll certainly look forward to providing more of an update later this week on some work that we're doing around building a working forest that will include wildfire resilience as a core part of that work, but also the broader work that we can do to work with communities to fire smart them and the role the forest sector can play in supporting that work as well.
Follow up. Sorry. You go ahead.
MacArthur, Global News. You talked about provincial support for communities. I think the issue comes down to timelines. The mayor of Summerland looking for concrete funding, concrete logistical support. How quickly can the province support communities like Summerland?
It's a very complicated process to get people back into community, and that's where we're at right now. We have advanced planners working directly with local governments on reentry plans. It can include everything from local infrastructure that has sustained damage, like roads or water infrastructure, all the way through to electrical hazards with poles coming down and down wires. We're very much still in the thick of it, working hand in hand with local government. That work is ongoing, and we'll be seeing results as people are able to return home.
And then a follow-up for Minister Parmar on tariffs, if I can. Looking at a 9 p.m. deadline tonight, lumber very much on the table, very much holding up the deal potentially. How concerned are you? And more appropriately, what funding will be there for the industry if we see Section 338 tariffs?
Yeah, thanks, Aaron. Look, I have all the faith in the world in Prime Minister Carney and his team. We have strongly advocated as a province, as I know many of my colleagues have, from coast to coast to coast, about the need to be able to protect forestry jobs. There's no sector that has faced the impact of the United States attack on Canada than our forestry sector. And so I know that we have laid our position out very clearly. I know the Premier has had that conversation with the Prime Minister. Now the work is in the hands of the federal government, and we wish them nothing but the best in their conversations with their American counterparts in hopes that they can reach a deal. If these tariffs come into effect this evening or tomorrow, we'll certainly have more to share, and we'll certainly be there to be able to help support those forestry businesses, in particular value-added businesses, and most importantly, workers who certainly have faced considerable impacts as it relates to duties, tariffs, and commodity lumber prices these last couple of years.
Next question. Go ahead.
This is for Mr. Greene. I'm Daryl Greer with the Canadian Press. We are wondering about if we can get some specificity on what 150 structures means. Structures could mean a gazebo or a tool shed, but what people, especially up there, I was just up in Penticton last week speaking with evacuees, the difficulties they were having was getting up-to-date information on their homes. They don't we're not really interested in a gazebo burning down. What can you tell us about what the nature of those 150 structures are, and what are the total losses of homes rather than, tree houses or whatever they may be? We don't know the definition of structure versus home. So if you could be a little bit more specific, that would be very helpful.
Mm-hmm. I really recognize how difficult it is to live with uncertainty on what status your home is. It's the number one priority for people, and we want to be able to support that. Rapid damage assessments are being finalized right now. The regional district is reaching out to affected homeowners individually to be able to share this news. It's absolutely devastating to learn that you've lost your home. We have supports available online for people during these calls, counseling services, disaster social support, and it's really important that the local government has the opportunity to have these conversations. They are ongoing right now, and I expect them to be completed soon.
Okay, I was just wondering about the number. You said there's 150 structures. How many of those are homes? And I hope that's not my follow-up, because he didn't answer my question at first.
Yeah, thank you for that. Structures is any structure of note on a property, including things like barns, which are very important for farmers as well as homes. I will leave it to the local government to communicate structure losses with residents before we release specific details about the losses that have been experienced by people on the ground. It's absolutely devastating to have these losses. We will give those folks the respect and opportunity to talk with their local government about what their property looks like.
So you don't know the total number of homes?
We will let the local
Okay.
government know, have those conversations with affected residents. It is very important for the local government to be able to reach out with affected people. It is not for this moment. That moment is ongoing right now.
Do you have a follow-up?
It's for Dr. Henry. I'll let you get to the mic there. You've spoken a lot about the physical health effects of wildfire smoke, and this kind of touches upon the idea of misinformation or lack of information. What about the mental health toll, not only on people experiencing the existential dread of being in a smoky, hazy environment for the foreseeable future, but also for the people who are, faced with the uncertainty, the lack of knowing, not knowing if they're going back to their homes, and, having to wait on information that presumably could be, communicated perhaps more expeditiously, more effectively, and more clearly, rather than parsing out languages like structures or things like that. People want to know, and I saw it in their faces. They are very distressed, and I'm wondering if you can talk about the mental health toll of not only these emergency crisis situations, but the overall, existential dread that might be affecting us all. I know it's affecting me at this very moment.
Yeah, no, it's incredibly important, and it's something that we can all empathize with. First of all, I do want to say that the people who are doing the work at determining structures, it's really difficult work, and they don't always know exactly what they're looking at. So I think they're doing a tremendous job. It takes time, and I know that's really hard for people. But we need to do that work, and they need to have those conversations, as Minister Greene said, with the individuals to really know what's going on the ground. So I wish it could be faster, but it needs to be done thoroughly like that, and I think people are doing an amazing job at doing that. We do know that climate change, climate anxiety is a very real entity. It's happening, especially young people. There's been lots of studies that have shown now that climate anxiety is one of the leading things that's causing young people to reach out for help. And I think that's an important thing. We do have people you can talk to walk through some of these feelings. And that is more than just the people, more than it's all of us who are faced with that as we see the effects of wildfire smoke and knowing people that have been evacuated, knowing the effects on the economy. And for some people, young people I've talked to, it's almost like dreading summer, which is really sad. And it's something that we as a society need to think about in terms of these are man-made climate change effects. Looking at water scarcity, looking at drought, looking at increased wildfire risks. These are things as communities that we have to deal with together. I also want to talk a little bit about, cultural disruption and the effects on our more than human relatives, the effects of the water shortages on salmon, for example, on the trees and the infrastructure, on other animals that are affected as well. So yes, we absolutely, the mental health of young people, particularly of the people who've been affected, is something that's incredibly important. And the minister mentioned a number of the resources that are available 24/7 for people to reach out to. The one other thing I want to mention is fatigue. I mean, this has been a very challenging season again. And the thousands of responders, the people from the local municipalities, the health responders, many of whom have lost their own homes or have been evacuated from their own homes, and just the amount of work and the support that they have for all of the things that they've done. It's been truly heroic this year.
Thank you very much.
Next question.
Hi, I have a couple of questions for Minister Parmar. Jared Yeager here with Sitka Media. So you talked about misinformation. Just wondering if you have any data pertaining to which platforms are particularly susceptible, and what if anything, the companies behind the platform should be doing to tackle this.
Yeah, it's a great question. And maybe I'll turn it over to my colleague Cliff, who may have some thoughts on this as well. Maybe just at the outset, I'm very proud of the work that the BC Wildfire Service has done the last couple of seasons to be as transparent as we can with letting British Columbians know the situation with individual fires, of course, the situation across British Columbia, even having high-depth videos being taken, showing our incident commanders and wildfire professionals providing an update in terms of where things are at with individual fire situations, in addition to the work that British Columbians can do as well. I think what we've seen the last couple of fire seasons is a lot of chatter on Facebook and X and other types of social media platforms, AI graphics and videos that really question whether what people are seeing are real or not. And so I think it's important for me, as well as others, to remind British Columbians that the information that you need on the wildfire situation in your province is available on the BC Wildfire app. Follow credible news sources, get that information where you need it, and also don't just rely on Facebook groups and X and photos and videos you see. Just ask questions and be resilient and stay informed. But happy to turn it over to Cliff for any thoughts that he may have.
Yeah, thank you very much, Minister Parmar. Really, all I would add is that we have a very significant and very strong information team within BC Wildfire Service. If you were to go back 10 years, we might have had 2 or 3 people in that sort of world, and now we have a significant number of information officers, and their job, their primary function, is to get real-time information, or as close to real-time information, out to the public and the stakeholders that are seeing these wildfires in around them. So we have them at the provincial headquarters, we have them at our fire centers, and we have them on our individual wildfires, in particular our wildfires that have incident management teams. We work, I would say, tirelessly to try to keep people up to date on what is happening on the fires, when it's happening, how it's happening, and often we also are trying to get people the information so they can start to plan when they may be able to go back, when it might be safe. And obviously, as we continue to see the wildfires trend, to kind of understand what we might expect in the coming days. So, that we do that on this media availability every week, but we also do it locally, and you can get real-time incident information from our wildfire app, as well as from our own Facebook and social media channels, where we post videos very often, trying to give the public everything we can in terms of what's happening with the fire situation across British Columbia, right down to the specific incidents.
Do you have a follow-up?
Yes, just wondering if there's more you can say about the impact of these forest fires on BC's forestry sector.
Yeah, thanks for the question. No question, for the last number of years, these fires have had a significant impact on our forest sector. We are losing merchantable timber value every single fire season. There's a considerable amount of work that's happened over the last number of years to fire smart our communities. It's clear that we have to redouble our effort. Timber is an important value to British Columbians, and certainly the challenging situations we're facing today with very low commodity lumber and pulp prices, the impacts of the measures that the President of the United States has taken, and all the other impacts like wildfires, conservation measures, you name it, has led to a very challenging period in BC's forest sector. I think it's why it's so important that we transform this sector, and I certainly look forward to sharing some more details later this week on the steps that we're taking to build a working forest that I think will meet the test of times and help set this sector up not only for success, but also ensure that it moves away from boom and bust to stability and certainty.
Our next question is from Emily Joveski, Vista Radio. Emily, go ahead.
Hi, thanks for taking my question. For Minister Parmar, I'm wondering how many firefighters from other jurisdictions are currently in BC and how long they're expected to remain. Are there more international firefighters expected to come?
I'll turn that over to Cliff Chapman.
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. We still have roughly 800 national and international firefighters in British Columbia. That number is kind of going down in the next week to 10 days. We're going to see some of those resources return to their home. We also have seen a significant increase in our contract crew availability and them being out on our incidents across British Columbia as well. So that's our Type 2 and Type 3 crews. So we are not anticipating today of having any more national or international imports coming to British Columbia to support us. Obviously, that can change within 48 hours. So if we anticipate that we're not going to see the potential for precipitation that we might see a little bit this weekend, if we don't see it, then we may need to call in some additional support. We also, just so that folks are aware, we do have a decently large university student population within our crews, and so we are anticipating a rough drop of about 25%, but we've already accounted for that. We know that happens every year, and we build our crews and obviously our imports from outside of the province around the date of the end of August when our students have to return to university.
Emily, do you have a follow-up?
I'm also wondering if there's any damage to school facilities in Summerland or with potential impacts on electrical or water systems. Will schools be able to open on time?
For that question, I will be turning it over to Kevin Dunbar, but I know that we work very closely in every emergency to understand what public infrastructure could be impacted. We look obviously for the kinds of infrastructure that support communities like schools, like electricals, water systems and things like that. And with that, I will turn it over to Kevin.
Yeah, thanks very much, Minister, and thanks for the question. So EMCR, we work very closely with local governments when they're planning reentry and planning recovery stages like this. I think it's important that at this point with the Summerland and the surrounding areas that we're still working with them to understand the impacts and the steps to take. Reentry is often a phased process. It's not something that happens immediately, and it's based on a number of different considerations. Some of that can be utility restoration, water, power restoration, road access, ensuring the water systems are up and running, looking at other hazards as well, as are there some danger trees or debris or other hazards that need to be mitigated, and also looking at impacts, as you mentioned, to kind of essential services as well. And I know the Summerland mayor was interviewed earlier today, said that and reiterated that this reentry work is underway. The sewage plant is operating again, and so that we're working closely with Summerland throughout this process to kind of evaluate and understand the next steps need to be done to ensure that people can return safely. And I think it's important to remember that that while some of the wildfire risk has reduced in some areas, there still are risks throughout the area. These are still communities that are under, some parts are under evacuation order. Some parts are still under evacuation alert. And so we work very closely to ensure that we're careful and considered when supporting reentry and ensuring that people can get home as safely as possible. Thank you.
Our next question is Tyler Olson, the Tyee. Tyler, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Greene, PNRD Chair Barb Roden says she talked with you on August 9th to say they needed the province's help to help evacuees returning home to freezers full of rotting meat. She says she spoke to Ravi Parmar and David Eby as well. The issue has caused large amounts of stress for residents there and in Boston Bar, but their request was seemingly ignored. Why did your ministry stop funding this critical aspect of evacuation assistance for people returning home after prolonged evacuations?
So I know after evacuations, particularly with power outages, which very frequently happen with evacuations to wildfire, is there can be significant spoilage in people's fridges or freezers, and that they're quite fouled with rotten food. We do work with local governments to support them in cleanup efforts at the community level, and so the regional district has arranged for fridge and freezer pickups. Our ministry pays for the marginal incremental cost of additional disposal related to reentry. So in this case, the disposal of these fridge and freezers would be paid for by my ministry.
Do you have a follow-up?
Yeah, so has that changed? Because 2 weeks ago, the FBRD and the TNRD said they had heard that they wouldn't be reimbursed, and that led to residents being told that they'd have to deal with it on their own, and then a scrambled effort by community people to figure out a solution. So these local governments were told that you wouldn't fund it, and now you seem to be saying you do provide funding. Why is this such a confusing aspect when this is known to be an issue?
Different communities have different needs and different ways of picking up and disposing of debris related to emergencies. My ministry pays for incremental costs associated with an emergency, including debris removal. In this case, fridges and freezers are considered debris removal, and we would be paying for the incremental cost to the community.
That concludes today's event. Thank you so much.
Thank you.